Going on, everybody? How y'all doing, man? So we're gonna take this moment to talk about some things that's kind of been brought to the attention in the light of recent events, and that is how to prepare yourself in the event of the worst. You know, a lot of people talk about societal collapse, and they don't think that it's possible. And I'm here to tell you that it's absolutely possible. I'm gonna give you some examples as to what societal collapse looks like. I'm also going to talk about what are some of the things that lead to society collapsing. And I'm going to give you two examples in history of societies that have collapsed based off of some of the same things that we're going through today. Um, some of the evidence of societal collapse and how you can foresee that happening is, we have the depletion of natural resources. We're not using natural resources, or the ones that we have, or we've used those up. Another example of it would be natural disasters. There's been a lot of natural disasters that's been taking place, and even some that maybe not so natural disasters, like what was going on in Flint, Michigan, for example. Um, the train derailment that happened in Ohio, all the different forest fires that are displacing a lot of our citizens all across the country. Um, Another thing would be, foreign invasion or mass migration. There's a huge surge of that's happened in the recent years, very recent years, upwards of about 10 million new people that have flooded into this country um, for whatever reason. That they're here, they are here, and that can cause a huge rift between the people who are already here and the new people that have arrived. Another aspect of societal collapse would be economic depression, internal strife. We've seen a lot of that economic depression. Jobless rates have soared. Um, there's been a lot of internal strife, reasons why people feel like um, why that's happening, whether it be political reasoning, um, cultural reasoning, whatever. And the divisiveness that's been going on in our country is just putting people in smaller and smaller groups and isolating them even more and more. And it's crazy because we have the internet, and the internet is kind of a place where people can get together and reconnect, but it's becoming an instrument used to divide us even further. So, you have disease outbreaks, which is another one. We just came through a pandemic in 2020 for the coronavirus. And also there is talks of in other countries preparing for um, outbreaks of another possible pandemic. You have countries shutting down large metropolitan areas for like bird flu. I think it's H7N1 or something like that. These are all things that's happening very recently. You have high unemployment, high homeless rates. Is another aspect of a society collapse, like evidence that something like that could be on the horizon. Um, you have financial institutions that are just shutting down, that are just open today, evaporated tomorrow. We've seen that happen with First Republic National Bank in California. We've seen it happen with Signature Bank in New York. This is last year. Even today, right now in China, several banks have shut down. There are people rioting in the streets. Uh, you have evidence of that happening when in Bangladesh right now there are huge riots going on in the streets. Like, that country is pretty much in a civil war. Same thing going on in Kenya right now. All this stuff is happening right now. So these are evidences of or evidence of um, societal collapse being on the horizon. So we have a lot of those different uh, variables that we're dealing with here in this country, just to kind of talk to you about how that's possible. Now, in history, um, one of the empires that fell because of those different variables being in place, and and causing a perfect storm, so to speak, for those countries to collapse is the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire had rampant corruption. It had internal political divisions. I mean, that's a major, huge problem that we deal with here in this country. And the country was also being invaded by Germanic tribes. And I know we're not necessarily being invaded by different countries or or um, or being in conflict where we're being raided every now and again. But a lot of people feel like the migrant situation is an invasion because it's not just Latin American migrants crossing the border. We found Chinese, we found Arab, and these are people. These are like military age men that happen to be crossing those borders, and so that was those are some of the things that have contributed to it. Plagues also helped take down the Roman Empire, and interesting enough too, they lost strength. Um, they lost strength outside of their empire. So they losing strength with basically relinquishing effective control of different territories. Now the United States isn't really doing that exactly, but the examples of that is when we lose, or not lose, but when we back the way we withdrew from Afghanistan. If you don't think other countries saw that and took notes based off of our performance in leaving a combat zone, that visual there leaves an impression, which in turn affects the way that we have control over different policies that we want to be able to use that could boost whatever we have going on here for our economy. So that's how the Roman Empire fell, man. All those different variables. Another one for more recent times would be the Russian Empire. Tsar Nicholas II, when he was abdicated forcefully and forcefully removed. He was plagued with poor leadership. He was a man that was incapable of being an effective leader on the world stage. So we're seeing a lot of that with a lot of our leadership right now. Um, People are seeing us as weak, seeing us as an object of vulnerability, which isn't necessarily true of the people, but um, as the leadership goes, so goes the country. They say, so to speak, and there was a lot of economic and social unrest during the period of towards the end of the Russian Empire, and you had the Bolsheviks basically doing a lot of different riots and protests, and I mean we are a country um, that is not shy of exercising our First Amendment right, whether it be gathering, freedom of speech, but there are people within those movements, those protests, that are perverting the movement, perverting the protest, and taking advantage of an opportunity for change, and actually using that as an opportunity to inflict damage, and that's a problem that that we deal with here in this country, and that was something that was a problem in the Russian uh, in the Russian Empire, and that empire fell, and we see what happened there after communism took root in that country. Um, you had pretty much um, you went from uh, a country that had relative freedom to a country that controlled every aspect of everybody's lives everywhere. And then when Lenin was no longer in charge, and it became under the hand of Joseph Stalin, millions of Russians were put to death needlessly. So, we don't want history to repeat itself. So we need to take heed to what is on the horizon if we continue down this path, or what could possibly be on the horizon if we continue down this path. Now, if society was to collapse, I'm going to tell you that it isn't going to be something that you could stand back and watch. It's going to be something that happens quick, and um, how you can kind of survive a societal collapse all depends on what you do immediately. Um, and I'm going to say immediately, like you see, I put a video out where I had a bug out bag. There's people in the comments that call it, we don't call it a bug out bag anymore. We call it a go bag or a 3-day pack. And all of that is true. And 3-day pack, 72 hours, is really crucial in terms of being able to survive in the event that something would hit the fan, right? So, what you want to think about is being able to be mobile, your mobility, getting out immediately once you see things like what I'm showing you or what I'm telling you about on the horizon. What would happen immediately um, would happen immediately, and what you do would be an ultimate determining factor on this if you survive. So you got the 72 hours window, but honestly, I want to say that the first 12 hours is probably the most critical and crucial aspect of being able to survive a society collapse. And the reason why I say that is because within 12 hours, most people they're going to kind of be watching, like they're going to be glued to their phones, glued to the TV. They're going to be watching, like, man, I cannot believe this is happening. And then all of a sudden, like what's going on in Bangladesh, like I was telling you, um, things will begin to get shut off. Like you're going to see, like the internet's going to get shut off. Cell phones are going to stop working. You're going to have power is going to go out. Water, electricity, major highways are going to be blocked. And the police and the military. You think people are going to sit back and think that the police and the military will start to come in and they'll start to bring back law and order, but that's not going to necessarily be the case because they have families too. And, once society starts to actually crumble, they're not going to be there to protect the people because they're going to be trying to protect their own families. And I'm not going to say rightfully so, but understandably so. Um, so really, when society starts to collapse, it's going to be your ability to live is going to be based off of what you can do and what you do. So um, I highly suggest um, that as soon as you start seeing those signs and you start seeing those things happen, that you need to get out of the city and it's far away from any um, urban area as quick as possible. And I'm talking about, like, don't just pull over on the side of on the side of the highway at a rest stop and try to set up a camp there in the woods. You need to go deep into the middle of nowhere because you don't want to be caught in a situation where you could possibly be spotted by some roaming marauders. So that's going to be definitely important for you to consider. Now, after the 12 hours, the 24 to 72 hours aspect, those that haven't gotten out of the city, because between 24 and 72 hours, you'll start to see um, people change, even the nicest of people changing. Because when it comes down to feeding my family, doesn't matter how nice of a person they've always been, how loving of a person they've always been, you'll see the true monster of human nature come out of them to be able to provide for the most basic needs that are no longer available to everybody else. And, you're going to see situations of, people breaking in houses, breaking in different properties, breaking in and drugstores. It's just going to kind of be like anarchy. It'll literally become like a scene of The Purge, or the movie The Purge, without any type of relief in sight. Um, if you think that you can just stay, and wait it out, and help is going to come, and I can take care. We're just going to hide and hunker. After a 72-hour period, I'm going to say that your survivability rate will probably go down to zero. Um, you definitely want to try to move as quickly as possible, because, like I said, the resources, one of the things that makes society collapse, it isn't just about the big, like, society is one small society built on another society. Like, so you got the local, then you got the state, and you got the federal, and you got the world. So, you know, because the national or the state level society collapsed, also for the same reasons that it collapsed will be the same reasons why um, a local government will collapse. Depletion of natural resources. Once once the grocery store doesn't have the food anymore, you're gonna have people um, roaming around the streets in gangs and warlords trying to raid houses and businesses to procure and collect as many supplies as they can, and they're going to take them from you. So it behooves you to be able to be mobile and get out as quickly as possible. Now, what I'm going to do is basically try to explain how people can prepare themselves to be able to survive. But for tonight, this is what it's going to look like if it happens. And that's what this video is all about. Make sure you like, make sure you share, you comment, and subscribe, because I'm going to share the next video tomorrow about what you can do to survive and what you should have to be able to survive. All right. Like always, everybody, we go ahead and want you all to implore hops. Make sure that you are using hops. And that is, I want you to train hard, train often, train properly, and train safely. This is the Great Man Podcast. Peace.